What is a complete human? Is it a cover model? Is it a science geek? Is it a fitness expert? Or all of the above and more? Janna and Evan are crusaders that walk the earth looking at today's issues that touch our hearts and minds. The honest and hopeful outlook on the advancement of today's society. The science behind the decay of human relationships. The necessary preparations for future generations. Join us as we look deep inside ourselves and embark on a journey into becoming a complete human.
Why do we need to have a proper ratio between the two?
Yeah, and that really just comes down to inflammation, right? We've talked a lot about inflammation. Acute inflammation is good. I get a cut, that's my body signal to send all of the fun stuff to that cut to start the healing process. Well, acute inflammation is a trigger, based off of an insult, based off an injury. Chronic inflammation is something that leads to disease. So acute becomes chronic if not resolved. Chronic leads to disease. A level of an omega-6 to an omega-3 ratio of 20-1 is so pro-inflammatory that people who have that are chronically inflamed. So their probability of getting Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease just goes through the roof. If we don't bring that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio back in line to where it should be, we are just headed right off of the cliff straight into disease world.
Right. You make a good point about, maybe you don't need to add in omega-3s, maybe just decrease the inflammatory omegas.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that's a relatively new development in I think my belief system, because I was, coming from the fish oil side of the world. It was always, the omega-3s were really the Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's not fix the diet. Let's just load you up with fish oil.
Eat your fries and take your fish oil.
Yeah. But and there's absolutely a place for polyunsaturated fatty acids in good quality omega-3. I believe that. I believe in the 22,000 clinical trials that have supported the need for those. But I also believe now, after understanding the value of regenerative agriculture, the value of grass-fed, grass-finished beef or livestock and what that means for our health, that by eating properly and reducing that intake of omega-6, that we can really have that, what I would call evolutionary omega-6 to omega-3 balance.
Well, I think also when people think omega-3s and increasing that, they think salmon, fish.
Yeah.
Right? You've been talking a lot about livestock, so that's a very different mindset.
It is. And here's the thing that I found out, right, is good quality beef, grass-fed, grass-finished, raised on regenerative, land, actually has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio better than salmon.
That's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. Now, another thing that I recently talked about, I read a research study on, was there was a fascinating research study on grass-fed versus grain-fed versus placebo. A pound of beef a day for 10 weeks. Now think about that. You have to eat a pound of beef a day for 10 weeks. The group that was grass-fed and grass-finished, all of their inflammatory markers went down. The group that was grain-fed, all of their inflammatory markers went up. Mm-hmm. And then the placebo was the placebo, right? There was very little change. But what we found is that grass-fed, grass-finished beef actually will reduce the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio.